Irish Nation, welcome to the show. We are finally here to be talking about college football. This is the Notre Dame Miami Week 0, Sunday, August 31st, 2025 preview show for real live Notre Dame college football. How exciting is that? And Mike, we are super pumped for a new addition to the show this year. As we mentioned, Irish Talk is now officially the Notre Dame football podcast of the college football, an awesome collection of podcasts covering just about every team. So, Mike, what does that mean for our listeners?
Yeah, so we're gonna have a lot more guest segments this year, particularly to preview games. This will give listeners a chance to hear what podcasters think from the other side. Sometimes it'll be fan radio, sometimes more analytical, like us. It'll just depend on each team. In this network that we're in, I would say each team has a podcast similar to us, but they all have different approaches. So that's what you're going to see when you listen to us interacting with these different podcasts. But really, the idea is to get in the mind of the enemy, so to speak, and then go deeper into the scouting on what to expect. Because no one is going to know the opponent better than some diehard fans from that fan base, and we're thinking that'll be helpful for us. It'll be helpful for our listeners, and it's something we're looking forward to.
Absolutely. Really excited. We've done a couple of collaborations here already in the off season on other shows. Super excited for today's show. Mike's interviewing the host of Miami Nights, a podcast dedicated to all things Hurricane football. Let's check it out.
College football season has officially kicked off. We're here with the Miami Nights podcast, a fellow member of the College Huddle community of podcasts. They cover the Canes. We have a big week one matchup between Notre Dame and Miami, and are thrilled to have on a guest to preview the Canes, a guest who knows the Canes inside and out, diehard fans. Our perspective is, what better person to talk to, what better way to understand an opponent than someone who covers that opponent in depth. So that's been our philosophy. It's been a huge benefit of the College Huddle since we joined, and we're really excited about this collaboration. So with that, Joe, why don't you tell us a bit about your show? How long have you guys been following the Miami Hurricanes football?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that intro. Yeah, we are the Miami Nights podcast. We've only been covering Miami we're going on our third year now, second with the College Huddle. So still a little bit new in the podcast world. There's plenty of people that have been trying to cover Miami football. We're looking to do it from sort of a diehard fan side of things. Things can get a little passionate on our podcast. We're a little bit crazy, but yeah, we've been following for 3 years, but I do it with my brother Jimmy and my best friend from high school, Kurt, and so we've been diehard fans our entire lives. So we bring a lot of that passion, energy, angst, overall fury of the last 20 years to the show. So that's a little bit about us.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think from a Notre Dame fan's perspective, my co-host Brett and I mean, we take an analytics based approach, but make no mistake, we're pretty big diehards as well.
Yeah.
We're definitely yelling at the TV. You know, it ruins my Saturday if Notre Dame has like a big letdown loss. I really hope. I mean, this series with Miami has had some really really intense moments. I mean, not as much like I think in our lifetimes, but certainly you look back in the '80s, Catholics versus convicts, right? It's there have been some big moments, and I'm hopeful that we're able to recapture some of that. I think this current landscape actually is one where Miami is set up pretty well to be able to kind of start hitting those peaks that they were hitting in the past. So yeah. I think it'd be great if we start having more of these like top 10, top 5 matchups.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's such a good rivalry and just two really good logos of college football. And I think Miami and Notre Dame similarly have been. I mean, Notre Dame's last championship was what, 1988. Miami's
88.
2001. Obviously, Notre Dame has been in the picture more recently and has been competing at a higher level than Miami. But it's like both programs, you can tell, and fan bases, like they want this thing to be real again. And this game kind of feels like that.
Yeah, I agree. I actually was it's funny. I've told this story a couple times. I was in Miami. This was 2013, but it was the 2012 season national championship against Alabama, and obviously did not go well for Notre Dame. We haven't always had the best luck at that stadium. But interestingly, the Alabama fans, they were not the ones who were really, I would say, heckling me as much. It was like I found that it was like Miami Canes fans who were kind of like, they're
Sounds
getting in
about
their
right.
digs. Yeah, I was like, all right. I was like, look, this is like this is a rivalry that I think could wake up pretty fast and could become heated really fast. I mean, 2017, I think
Yeah.
you saw, like, when you have a resurgent Miami team, like how energized that fan base can become.
Definitely. It's one thing that Miami fans will do. They love rivalries. We love a good rival, and like big games, like we will get up for those and be very loud and obnoxious about it. So it doesn't surprise me that a game that we weren't even in, not even close to being in, and that Miami are taking some digs at Notre Dame. That's funny.
Yeah. I respected it. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
these guys. I was like, these are some real fans for sure. Okay, with that, let's get into some questions, because I'm really interested to just learn more about Miami from a diehard. So let's start with Carson Beck. What's the latest buzz? He obviously had a big injury to end his season last year. He gets a lot of attention for his breakup with his celebrity girlfriend. He's had a lot of gaudy numbers. At one time, was projected as a potential first round pick. But he's had criticism for his performance in big games, transfers to Miami, a lot of hype. Obviously, big shoes to fill following Cam Ward. So I guess with that, what is the latest you're hearing from him? What are your expectations?
Yeah, I think first off, expectation is that he's not going to replace Cam Ward. I don't think anybody can replace the magic that man put on the field last year. Like that was something really special for Miami college football in general. But all reports out of fall camp is that Carson Beck had a really good fall camp, that he looks very sharp, that his arm strength is like has been surprising to some in a good way. Coming off of his UCL tear, like he missed all of spring practice, so we didn't get to see any of that in spring. So fall was like the first time we got to see Carson Beck in a Miami uniform. And yeah, everything that has come out of camp, Miami keeps it very hush hush about what happens, as a lot of teams do, and like scrimmages are pretty closed down. But from the reports out of it, it's that the team loves him, but he's been very sharp. So that was exciting to hear. It's definitely something that in the last 10 years, especially at the quarterback position, Miami has not heard great things coming out of camp. And that we've often gone into the season with a lot of question marks. With Carson Beck, we've seen kind of what he can do. And like you said, 2 years ago, he was going into last year sort of as the Heisman favorite and was going to be a first round pick. Interesting what happened at Georgia. I think there was a lot that went into kind of his struggles. I mean, they led the nation in drops, so that was like that's a big part of struggling as a quarterback. If you kind of lose that trust with your receivers and you start getting drops on big downs, and now you're starting to force things. Like I think a lot went into the amount of interceptions that he threw. And I expect him to kind of be more like the Carson Beck we saw 2 seasons ago. Yeah, I think it was one of the Cavender twins. I can't remember which one. That thing was a whole mess. I'm glad he's going into the season clean slate. I can't have any of that baggage with my quarterback.
Right. Yeah, it's just an unwelcome distraction. You want
For
them
sure.
focused on football. You don't want them, being too involved on TikTok or Instagram
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean,
Can't have them
even in this
dancing.
NIL era, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, certainly the arm talent is there. We've seen what he's capable of when he's playing at a high level, and this would not be the first time a very talented quarterback transfers to another program and is able to improve significantly and build on what he had done before. So yeah, I think Carson Beck is one of the more intriguing players to watch this year. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be curious. Even after this game, I'll be curious to see how his season progresses. So I guess
Definitely.
on a related note, a lot of missing talent has left the skill position players. So by our count, and keep me honest here, 3 wide receivers and a tight end are now on NFL rosters from last year's team. So I guess my question is, who makes up for that? How plug and play is that part of the offense?
Yeah, it's interesting because as far as the wide receivers go, we had one of them that transferred. Like our best receiver our best receiver is Xavier Estrepo. He went undrafted. He's trying to make the Titans roster now. We'll see what happens with that in a few days. But and then Isaiah Horton, he transferred to Alabama, and so really from like other than that, from the wide receiver standpoint, we our freshmen that are now sophomore, Miami feels really good about. I think they're gonna like they're talented. They started showing some sparks at the end of last season, and then we did lose Arroyo to the NFL, our tight end, and then we had Riley Williams, who was a sophomore, I believe, transfer. but that was because Elijah Lofton, who's our tight end, who was our freshman tight end last year, like we expect him to be really, really good this year. So, and then we brought in CJ Daniels. We brought in a transfer from Cincinnati. So we filled the wide receiver is definitely the biggest question mark of this whole team. But we did fill, like, I feel like we did our job in the offseason to kind of fill those gaps. And now it's just a matter of can they produce on the field, but there's a lot of talent. And then the two freshmen, Josh Moore and Malachi Toney, are some of the two better freshman wide receivers this program has had in a long time. It's just a matter of it's the fact that they're freshmen. So it's like they're built like they're pretty. Josh Moore's a big dude, so it's like he might get some playing time early in the season, even as a true freshman. So honestly, I feel okay about, at least on paper, what that room looks like. Now it's just a matter of can they produce.
Right. Yeah. Certainly a lot of talent, a lot of pieces. It's interesting because I think I expect this Miami offense to be one of the best this season. But the question in my mind is like, okay, well, are they going to look like that game one? I mean, I'll use Notre Dame's offense as an example last year. So Riley Leonard, by the end of the season, he had actually developed significantly as a passer. But early in the year, I mean, it was a struggle. He also, similar to Beck, had missed spring ball, and so he kind of got involved a little bit late. So there were a lot of moving pieces, and so like our offense at the end of the year was significantly better than what we had at the beginning of the year. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw something like that with Miami. But I mean, I think even game one, I think there is enough talent there where this is still going to be like a high performing offense.
Yeah, but you're right. It's like week one's always I mean, last year, Miami versus Florida, week one, the offense was humming from the start, and that kind of set the pace for the rest of the season. But that's not often the case. Like a lot of missed assignments, a lot of kind of miscommunication, some drops from the receivers. So we'll see. It's like I said, wide receiver room is definitely the biggest question mark on the offense, but the talent is there. So it still should be a pretty prolific offense, taking a slight step back from the crazy numbers they put up last year.
Yeah, I mean, by most advanced metrics, I mean, pretty much, I think every advanced metric I saw in Miami had the number one offense last year. So
and if our defense just had a pulse, we would have at least been in the ACC championship and possibly playing for more, but nope.
Yep. Well, that's a great segue because my next question is, so defense was clearly the weak point on last year's team. You got a new defensive coordinator, Heatherman. I think he's from Minnesota. So I guess what are you hearing? On the defense, what are you hearing on the new defensive coordinator?
Yeah, again, and this is also off, like Miami's hyping everybody up, but all good things. Corey Heatherman's interesting. He goes with a positionless defense approach. Like he's very much about putting the right guys on the field, ideally in the right situation. And so our defense is going to look very different week to week. Honestly, like quarter to quarter, kind of what's happening, who's performing well in the field, where can we put them to be the most successful. And his biggest thing and what our biggest weakness was last year, regardless of the talent on the field, who we were playing, the amount of miscommunication there was, like you would have three different parts of the defense running three different, like not understanding what coverage they were in. And so his biggest thing is like, I don't care if we are not in the right coverage. Like if we just got the play wrong, if we blitzed and they just killed us on the blitz and they run screen and kill the blitz or something, that's okay. As long as everyone's running the same play. Like that's the biggest thing, is making sure that communication is tight and that the defense is just everybody's on the same page. So that's exciting. Like all accounts and purposes, that seems to be going over well in camp. Now it's just, can we get it done on the field? But Corey Heatherman's an exciting. He's a kind of a scary dude. Like he's got those eyes that like look into you like, whoa, take it easy, man. But he's aggressive. And yeah, the positionless defense is going to be interesting to see, like linebackers lined up in spots you normally wouldn't see them, kind of coming off the end, or corners and safety sort of interchanging. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I imagine, especially for a first-time quarterback like we're going to have at Notre Dame, I imagine that's a big goal of that will be to confuse them. And if you have a quarterback who doesn't have as much experience, they're probably a bit more likely to get confused. So that'll be something to watch. It's interesting because that's it's a theme that I feel like I haven't heard brought up as much as this positionless defense. So
I mean, you just have to be communicating really, really well, and so that's obviously goal number one, and that's something that was not the case last year.
Yeah. So I guess on a related note, so if Miami, if their defense is able to disrupt the Notre Dame offense, and some of this we've potentially hinted at already, where do you think Miami has the advantage? And then I guess with that, who is the game changing havoc player that Notre Dame fans should be aware of?
Yeah, I would say the game-changing Havoc player is on the defense, on the end, Ruben Bain. He took a little bit of a step back last year in his sophomore season because he got dinged up early and just like I said, everyone took our defense was just poorly coached. It was a mess. But his freshman year, I mean, he was a standout player, and was just wreaking havoc on the field. And has had an unbelievable camp. Like he's just that dude now that coming off the end he's going to be pretty nasty. And so I think that's where Miami can, if like you hinted at, if we can get after CJ Carr and kind of just disrupt and get in like a freshman's head like that in a big environment and just start causing a lot of confusion and chaos on the field, that's where I think Miami can have an opportunity to win this game. It's if the defense starts giving up gashes on the run, and we know Notre Dame's got quite the running game, that's like where we can get in trouble. So I really on that defensive line, like it's a nasty line. That's our strongest part of our defense by far. And if they can dominate the line of scrimmage, I feel decent about our chances.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard more about the defensive line. That seems like that's an area that could be if the defense makes a big step, it seems like that'll be a linchpin. It's the secondary, for instance, that I seem to be hearing more question marks on.
Yeah, for sure. And that was, I mean, it was probably the worst secondary, one of the worst secondaries in the nation last year. And so that's been completely overhauled in the portal pretty much. Except for OJ Frederick, who is the only standout that we had last season at corner. He's coming back. So it should be an improved secondary. Time will tell if it's, I mean, it can't be worse. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So who haven't we talked about? I guess who is a impact player for Miami that that's flying under the radar, maybe isn't getting as much attention as they should, or by the end of the year, it'll be someone that we'll look back on and we'll be like, wow, this person really emerged. How are we not paying much attention to this person at the beginning of the year?
I do think I think on offense, I think Josh Moore, the freshman, is going to be like one of the better. Like at the end of the year, it's gonna be like, wow, this guy was a complete playmaker. Like as a freshman, and will be Miami fans won't be surprised, but I think the country will be a little bit surprised by the numbers he could put up. But honestly, because of how bad the defense was last year, a lot of the attention is on that and how can Miami fix that. What isn't getting as much talk is just how good the offensive line is for Miami. Like it's the best in the ACC, it's one of the best in the country. And so when you have that with some of the maybe their questions about Carson Beck, like you feel a lot better about him at quarterback because of that offensive line, because of being able to run the ball. So that's kind of flying under the radar is just how good this offensive line is. And like, I mean, Notre Dame's got the same thing going on. Like, if you have a really good offensive line, you can do a lot of things, even if your quarterback's not putting up like crazy numbers or is doing the most flashy things. Like, if you can just kind of be that steady offense with a game manager back there at quarterback, like that's all you need. So I expect them to be able to run the ball really well. And it's kind of running back by committee at Miami for sure.
Yeah, I was impressed when I was diving into Miami more. Just, I mean, as you're talking about, just how strong you guys are in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I mean, that Notre Dame's philosophy has been to build the program through the trenches, and
Yeah.
obviously to take the next
Yep.
obviously to take the next step, you got to have great skill position players. But being strong in the trenches, it gives you like a pretty good floor. It gives you like there's a level of certainty that you get. So
Yep.
yeah, that is I would say the matchup in the trenches on both sides of the ball is something that I'm certainly keeping an eye on, to see who wins each of
Yep.
those battles. This is a bit more of a fun question. So, okay, so how are you expecting the home atmosphere? So I keep thinking back to the 2017 game where it just looked like an absolute like mix of a rave and the Super Bowl, essentially. I mean, I remember looking on like Instagram at the time, and there'd be like Notre Dame fans and Miami fans just getting in like fights at like the concession stands, and that game always, it's one of those games I always look back on and scratch my head because that was actually a really good Notre Dame team. And I remember you guys beat us so badly that right after that game, it was bad enough to where I was started questioning everything. I remember thinking, okay, are we actually any good this year?
Yeah.
Turned out we actually were.
Yeah.
And I think we were just completely overwhelmed by the atmosphere, which under Brian Kelly's tenure, that was something that would happen at times. So curious how you're expecting the home atmosphere to be here. Are you expecting it to be kind of like 2017 or maybe not quite at that level, but still, still a really, fired up fan base in the crowd?
Yeah, it's going to be close to 2017. I think 2017 was special because the week before Miami had just gotten a big win over Virginia Tech, and then I remember because I was at that game, and then they announced that while we were there, that like everyone's getting alerts that game day was coming for the Notre Dame game, and like so you just had that whole week build up after that of game days coming to Miami for the first time, and who knows how long. Like it was crazy, and it was kind of midway through the season. Like a lot was riding on that game. This one being first game of the season, like the stakes in some ways are very high, but in other ways it's like both Miami and Notre Dame can afford to lose this and be okay. So it's going to be close to that. It's going to be crazy. Like Miami fans are just, especially when you've got that 8 o'clock or in this case, what is it, 7 o'clock kickoff? They've got all day at the tailgates. Like things get a little rowdy. So they're just a louder group of people. And like, you've got that Spanish music blasting on like through the stadium. It's like a dance party, like you said, a rave. So it's going to be crazy. I think Notre Dame's going to be more prepared for it this time. But because that like 2017, that kind of came out of nowhere. It was like we haven't seen a Miami stadium look like this since the Orange Bowl, and it was so loud. It was one of the best games I've ever been to. So I think it's going to be close to that. It's going to be a great environment.
Yeah, I have nightmares of the turnover chain. I just like, there are nights that I go to bed and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, okay, that turnover chain, man, that thing still haunts me. Yeah, that stadium, Hard Rock, the Hard Rock. It's been a place Notre Dame has had. Yeah, I mean, we've had our struggles there. Although finally against Penn State, I would say we exercised our demons at that stadium. So obviously it's different team, different game, but I think for like the more paranoid Notre Dame fans who think there could be some sort of curse of that stadium, I think that at least helped lift some of that. But
question for you on that real quick is, do you think, because a lot of people are talking about like the humidity down there, the heat, that happens a lot when teams come down and play Miami, that conversation gets brought up. I don't know if you think that has anything to do with it, if it's just different weather and I don't know.
It's different. So I personally, I've lived like all over the country. I've lived in the deep South. I've lived in the Midwest. I mean, like honestly, the humidity and heat, it is different down there for sure. But that being said, we had similar questions last year against our early game against Texas A&M, and I mean, there are really two things. So Marcus Freeman, he's done an exceptional job of always having the team prepared for big games. We could talk about not the big games, like the games that like NIU's. That's a different topic. But for the games that are that you circle on your calendar and it's against a great team, he's always had the team ready to play. The moment's never too big. So I expect him to continue to do that here. And I think in terms of being ready for the humidity, a lot of that is just preparation. I think they do a lot of him and the staff. They do a ton of work just making sure that they're not caught off guard. They have everything they need to make sure everyone stays hydrated. There aren't any surprises. And Notre Dame, we recruit from all over the country, so we do have a number of players who grew up in in the South or areas that have that humidity. So I think I don't think the heat or humidity will get to them. I don't think I think like even if it is an exact replica of the 2017 atmosphere, I imagine Marcus Freeman will have them much more well prepared to play in this game than back during the Brian Kelly era. So anyways, with that, last question. So this is expected to be a very close game. You look at the advanced metrics, they pretty much all have it neck and neck. Vegas odds have this fluctuating between about 2.5, 3-point spread favored towards Notre Dame, which, so could go either way easily. Obviously, we're all biased. We're fans, but what are your final expectations for this game?
Yeah. Final expectations are, I mean, it's like we just talked about, it's going to be a crazy atmosphere. It's going to be loud. It's going to be fun. I do expect, Notre Dame is coming off of playing for a national championship. Like Miami has to, this is Miami's chance to kind of have a statement game early to earn that the opportunity to just be in the conversation that Notre Dame's been in the last several years and just like constantly competing at a high level. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I think these two teams, like when you do look at the trenches and kind of on paper and with both little question marks at quarterback, it's pretty even. Like I think Notre Dame's got more returning, more stability of what you guys know you're going to get on the field than Miami does. There's still a lot of question marks, but it's going to be a close game. I think that spread's pretty close. I think it could be a field goal either way. But I don't expect it to be like Notre Dame comes in and just slaps Miami in the face and leaves. Like and it's not going to be like 2017 where they're completely shell shocked and Miami rolls them. Like I think it's going to be a really good game that comes down to the last few possessions. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think there's a reason the spread is this close. Both teams, frankly have a lot of upside, right? Like
Yeah.
if Notre Dame's, if CJ Carr ends up being a hit, ends up being really good. I mean, that's like you're talking about a team that I think personally could win a national title. Obviously, that's a big if CJ Carr's playing at that level, and then for Miami, I think that offense has a ton of upside. If Beck is able to if he's able to improve or even just like play at the level he normally plays at and he translates that into like the big games, I think you're looking at another top offense. And as you mentioned, if the defense just even improves to where it's playing at a competent level,
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty lethal combination. So certainly both teams, I think, capable of making the playoff, having deep playoff runs if a few things go their way. So yeah, I think there's nothing more exciting than just a big week one matchup just to kick off college football season.
For college football. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been like counting down the days, since,
week zero, we got what we got the Kansas State, Iowa State. That was just a mess in Ireland.
Yeah.
And then we got Stanford losing to Hawaii like that. I need a week one clean slate. Like, let's get some good football on my TV.
Right. No, I was like, come on, can we just get one like good matchup, right? Yeah. But yeah, and then this week one slate is there are a lot of good options, and this is obviously this is top of my list. So what better way to kick off college football season? So, but anyways, yeah, Joe, thank you for being on the show. It was great having you on. I encourage everyone to check out their show, Miami Nights podcast. They're part of the College Huddle. And yeah, I hope we have more collaborations like this in the future.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having me on. Go Canes.
Go Irish. Super interesting interview. I think it confirmed a lot of what we thought. Brett, unfortunately, you weren't able to make the interview. So let's give you the last word here from Notre Dame's perspective, and then we'll jump into our actual score predictions.
The way I'm thinking about this one, look, SP Plus in the initial preseason rankings here has Miami as the 12th best team, but that includes the preseason ranking of the number one overall offense. And I think that's largely because they were the number one overall offense last year. And so much of the preseason data that goes into these models, it's not based on facts of this season yet. And it's going to take in productivity of transfers based on what their productivity was, like a Carson Beck, but he's returning from an injury that he suffered in the college football playoff. How healthy is he right away? Can he plug and play in a new offense? Their top 6 wide receivers from last year are gone. Their leading receiver from that roster last year had less than 100 yards. And so can that really be replaced with CJ Daniels coming over from LSU? Can it be replaced with Tony Johnson coming over from Cincy? I don't think it translates game one. And so I think some of that SP Plus ranking and, the advanced metrics going behind point spreads is a little skewed in this one. The other thing I always like to do, what is the weakest spot on the field? Notre Dame field's arguably a top 10, top 15 offense and a top 5 defense. Miami, they'll be good on offense. I know I was just knocking them a little bit. They're going to be a top 10 offense this year. I'm convinced of that. But their defense last year is 51st in SP Plus. Now SP Plus preseason has them about 44th. Again, they've got a new defensive coordinator. They have 5 starters in the secondary. 4 of the 5 starters in the secondary are transfers. Just a lot of new stuff coming together for what was an average defense last year, really below average for Power 4 conferences. I just don't see them clicking day one with a lot of new pieces coming together. I think that's a big time advantage for Notre Dame.
Getting into score predictions, ND is a 3-point favorite. SP Plus preseason rankings imply Notre Dame should be about 3-point favorites, at least the SP Plus preseason rankings that we're looking at right now. They tend to change a lot depending on when they re-release the rankings. But generally aligned with Vegas. So on a neutral field, it would be about 7 points in Notre Dame's favor. But of course, we're at Miami, which is a field that Notre Dame has tended to have some difficulty with in the past. Maybe not the Orange Bowl against Penn State, but certainly last time we played Miami in 2017, where they blew out what was a good Notre Dame team at the time. So you can't totally discount the home field advantage. We've seen what it can be like. We've seen how crazy it can get. Now, look, it's the very beginning of the season. It's going to be hot. So maybe the fans will be subdued a bit by the Miami heat and humidity, but that could be something that also works against Notre Dame. So all that being said, I'm going to kick it back over to you, Brett, and you can give us your score prediction.
I've been consistent all offseason. I think Miami is a great first opportunity for a new quarterback starter. And I think it's a defensive line that Notre Dame should be able to push around. I think it's a secondary, as I just mentioned, has a lot of transfers trying to gel and come together. I think that's going to be a very manageable approach, whether it's CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie at quarterback. And I just don't see Miami's offense, especially in the passing game, putting it all together. Certainly against Notre Dame with, Leonard Moore and Christian Gray back there in the secondary. And I just love the vibes of Marcus Freeman. Returning to Miami, where we had arguably the greatest win in the last 30 years of Notre Dame football in that Orange Bowl victory over Penn State. So I've got a really aggressive take here. First pick of the year. I've got Notre Dame winning this one comfortably, 31-14, and never really a competitive game.
I'm optimistic. I'm not quite as optimistic as you, Brett. I'm with you that I think Miami's offense is going to be a really good offense this year. I think you mentioned top 10. I think that's going to prove out to be true over the course of the season. But game one, you mentioned how many moving pieces they have. Carson Beck, yeah, he's an experienced quarterback, but he was hurt for much of the offseason, recovering from a pretty difficult injury. And then on top of that, when he's been in the pressure cooker, that's really when he started to buckle. And I think Notre Dame's defense is a defense that is tailor-made to make him uncomfortable. There aren't going to be as many opportunities for receivers to generate separation. I think our defensive line will be much more effective at generating a pass rush this year. So I think Carson Beck's going to be uncomfortable, and he'll be breaking in a bunch of new receivers, ones that are new, many of whom are new to the program. So I think you put all that together. I think by the end of the year, Miami's offense is humming. I don't know if they will be by game one. I think their defense should improve versus last year, but really it was a spectacular offense that kept them competitive last year. And it was that defense that was floundering. So I think even just a little bit of a step back from the offense, particularly in game one, I think that's going to make a pretty sizable difference. And while their defense will be improved, not enough to make that up. And of course, Notre Dame, we have questions as well, certainly at quarterback. But aside from that, I think we have far fewer questions. So for me, I don't think it's going to be high scoring, but I don't think it'll be super low scoring either. Both of these offenses should still, even if they do have some growing pains, they should be competent offenses week one, at a minimum. So I have Notre Dame winning 28-21.
Certainly big questions on both sides of the ball, us at quarterback and really them, just all the transfers coming together should make for a really fun and unpredictable. Like that's one of the fun parts about the preseason. We can all sit and talk about the numbers we have in front of us, but the numbers we have in front of us are all guesses at this point. Exciting to get football back in our lives. Looking forward to it here over Labor Day weekend. So to Irish Nation, be safe, have fun. Don't come home with an AC separation from your Labor Day celebrations like I'm dealing with right now. And hopefully we're all talking again with a 1-0 Notre Dame team. Until then, Irish beat Canes.
Irish beat Canes.